Hi there, and thanks for joining us today for this Net Wealth Practice Management webinar, our series designed to help wealth professionals discover new opportunities to enhance their business. My name's Liam, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Net Wealth, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Brandon Thompson, the CEO of Yodal. For the next hour, Brandon will be discussing how estate planning can help you grow your business and strengthen client relationships, and how to get an offering happening in your practice. Before we get into the good stuff, though, I will just run through some quick housekeeping items. There is one CPD point allocated for attending this webinar. To receive the CPD point, you will need to have watched at least 30 minutes of the session. The CPD details will then be emailed to you within the next week. This webinar is being recorded, and you will also, in the same email, receive a copy of the session along with the slides. And if there is anything you would like to ask Brandon, please do so by opening up the question tab in the taskbar to your right and typing it in there, and we will endeavour to get through as many as we can at the end of Brandon's presentation. A little bit about us. We are now in our 20th year, and we are an ASX listed company who provide an online platform to support financial advisors with a wide range of financial products and services to help manage their clients' investments and superannuation. So partner with us, an award-winning platform to start running your business the way you want to. Some of our key features include a market-leading advisor and client portal, a mobile app to help you and your clients access key info on the go, a wide range of investment options, a suite of detailed reports, and access to unique insights designed to help you scale your business. Now on to our speaker. As mentioned, I have the pleasure of introducing Brandon Thompson, the CEO of Yodal. Yodal is an Australian fintech company dedicated to partnering with advisors to implement defensible, revenue-centered estate planning practices. Today, though, he is your webinar host. So without further ado, Brandon, please take it away.
Thank you, Liam. Appreciate the opportunity. Can I see that one? Just... All right, as Liam said, today is a practical insight into building an estate planning offering. I guess we've broken the presentation up into three areas. Number one is the initial clarity and context. You need to bear with me for a few minutes when we go through that. I think it's important to understand what we mean when we talk about estate planning. It's a little bit like saying information technology or marketing. I mean, people's perceptions and understandings are very, very different. So we'll spend a couple of minutes just to understand what is it exactly that we want to work with organisations and help them build. The second bit is the opportunity. I mean, what exactly is it? And more importantly, in the current environment, why does it exist? What are the factors that create such a significant opportunity for advisors in this space at the moment? And then the bulk of the presentation is the practical pieces. And we do focus on the word practical. What we want to deliver today is your ability to go out and do something straight away. So they are practical steps. All right, a little bit about me, just quickly. I don't come from a legal background. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not an advisor. I'm not an accountant. I'm none of those things. I've spent 20 plus years working in high growth and tech businesses, generally businesses that have a services component attached to them. And the focus on all of those has been using technology to leverage growth. I came to Yodal at the end of 2018, and I guess the things that attracted me to Yodal, number one, the opportunity. The technology was very, very clever, and I liked the fact that it delivered a bona fide outcome for multiple stakeholders. It wasn't some of the normal tech startups or tech scale-up businesses that you see where you punch in, give me a plumber in postcode 3012 and you get 30 results. So apart from that, the guys behind it are really good. So that's why I ended up at the Yodal business. All right, we've already touched on some of this. I mean, today's about giving you some context to understand where the practical information that we're going to step through actually sits in. And at the end of the day, everything that we do as a business and everything that we are going to cover today is about helping you to grow your businesses. Okay. So in short terms, what is an estate plan? People think it is just a will, but take that back one step. It's a strategy for your clients to deal with their assets and investments at every stage of their life. Estate planning is a legacy conversation. It is not a mortality conversation. People often get that bit confused. And from a planner's perspective, estate planning has an implication based on nearly every stage of someone's life, whereas a lot of people misunderstand that as an end-of-life conversation. It's not. Okay. So it's more than just a will. Yes, a will is involved, but it's also about superannuation. It's about your death benefit nominations. It's testamentary trusts if the advice says that you want to protect assets or you have concerns about giving lump sums to different people. It's about powers of attorney. Where's those comments on that? Yeah, it's about powers of guardianship. So, I mean, what happens if you're unable to make decisions? What happens to your children? Anticipatory directions or advanced health directives. So what if you lose the capacity to make your own decisions? So there's actually quite a few components to an estate plan. And you look at some of the benefits, and again, we're only spending a few minutes on this because several of you would already understand some of this. It's about peace of mind for your clients and their loved ones, regardless of the stage or the change. Again, it's a legacy conversation for every stage of life. It's not a mortality conversation around end of life. Ensures that your client's wishes can be met, but the important point there is as they had intended. A lot of people are under the misconception that if an estate plan is not in place, everything will default or automatically pass over to a spouse or a partner. That's not the case. That's not the way it happens in many, many states. Minimises delays in finalising arrangements in the event of life changes. Often if there's a need to invoke an estate plan or the provisions of an estate plan, something has happened. Generally, something has happened. It could be something as simple as, you know, we're getting all this ticked off because we're going on an overseas holiday, but generally something has happened. So it's a difficult time for your clients and their families anyway. So it's about ensuring that that is as smooth as possible. And again, if you're going through a difficult time in your life, the last thing you want are legal challenges or people contesting any of your clients' particular wishes. We spend all day, every day out dealing with advisors and looking at their businesses and understanding what they do in the estate planning space. What we generally find with advisors, and I've italics the word generally here because it is general. Some of you will do more, some of you will do less, but if we drew a line through what we've learnt and what we see, generally advisors, you know the importance of estate planning. It's not a term that you're not familiar with, but generally it's peripheral to your core business. You focus on your advice and estate planning sits to the side or in the background, or in some instances, it's treated as a value add. Okay. You would generally make mention that it needs to be done or an estate plan needs to be reviewed, or you'll simply pick it up and refer them out the door to a lawyer. Okay. A lot of the reasons, and this comes out of a national market research study that we did, a lot of the reasons, or one of the main reasons why advisors treat estate planning like that is you feel like you need more knowledge than you actually do. Okay. At the end of the day, estate planning is unregulated advice, and the way Yodal works particularly, every single matter needs to be signed off by a lawyer. Okay. You see a lot of organisations out there promoting, come and do our estate planning courses. You need to spend $1,850 and spend 2 days with us. It's actually not the case. But the belief is that you need more knowledge than you actually do, so you tend to put it aside. The second reason, or the second main reticence why advisors treat estate planning like they do, or traditionally have, I should say traditionally have, because that tide is turning. You're concerned about initiating the conversation. It is a different type of conversation to what you would normally have from an accounting or an advice perspective. So you look at the business, and everything I do, or everything Yodal does, looks at your business, not only the behaviours of our users or your employees, but the business and the impact on the business. So we look at most businesses that we engage with or that engage with us, and they will promote a service, but not actually a product. And there's a fairly big difference. They will say, yes, we do estate planning, or it'll be on their website, but you actually start to talk to them about what does that actually involve, how do you actually do that, and there's a deficit there. The deficit is because they have limited fulfillment capacity, it's not adequately resourced, it's not embedded into their client journey maps. It's not a dedicated stage that all of your clients, be them new or existing, are taken through as a matter of process. Again, it leads back to the value add or peripheral comments that I previously made. And even if a firm or a business is doing estate planning, it's generally not measured, okay? If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. The other thing that we find is that most organisations don't maximise the secondary benefits of estate planning. And we'll go and talk about what a number of those are, but estate planning and the commercial benefit of delivering a dedicated estate planning product is not only limited just to your clients. Yeah. This one always surprises me. I mean, a business goes to a lot of time and spends a lot of money attracting, engaging, and building relationships with your clients. But then from an estate planning perspective, generally, again, I stress the word generally, advisors just pick those relationships up and flick them over the fence or flick them out the door to a lawyer. And that's the extent, largely, to how they manage the estate planning requirements of their clients. I've never understood the wisdom in sending those relationships out the door and not recognising or capitalising on the value of those referrals to your legal partners. We're doing some work with one organisation over in the States, a big firm. They do about 500 estate plans a year. So they would outsource or they would refer out over $2 million a year in legal fees. And they've never been able to track it, and they've never derived any reciprocal benefit from the lawyers for over $2 million worth of guaranteed fees in a year. I've never understood that. So, okay. And again, advisors fail to adequately account for the cost of their time and resources. That's more prevalent from the financial planning side of the advisor category. Accountants are a little bit more attuned to valuing their time. But I have, from the advisor side, I'd have to say we've seen a significant shift over the last 18 months in talking with advisors, where they're now starting to think about, okay, I've spent 3 months or 5 months or 6 months chasing this client around to see if this estate plan has been done. Have they caught up with the lawyer? They're starting to actually understand the cost to their business of treating estate planning as a value add or as an aside. All right, so by the numbers, that table breaks down, and this is a Australian Bureau of Statistics table. This breaks down the number of Australian adults that do have a will in the yes column, do not have, sorry, I won't say a will, I'll say an estate plan. Yes, they do have, no, they do not have, or I'm not sure if I have. But importantly, of the approximately 47 or 45% national average of Australian adults that do have a will, of that 45%, 21% of the 45% believe that their current estate plan is not a reflection of their wishes. Okay. They're fairly big numbers. If you put those numbers into people, what you're looking at there is just under 10 million or 9.9 million Australians have an intestacy problem. And that is, they do not have an estate plan, or they do not have an estate plan that's a current reflection of their actual wishes. Okay, so that's just a little bit of background, and you know, that's the boring bit. So I appreciate that, but I think it's important to understand what we're talking about and what the opportunity is. Can those comments be bigger? Okay, so what is the opportunity? There is a huge opportunity, and if every single person on this webinar was not smart enough to realise that there is an opportunity, you wouldn't be spending an hour of your time staring at a screen, listening to someone you've never met talk about building an estate planning practice. Okay, so I don't need to go and educate, for want of a better term, people on the size of the opportunity or the fact that there is one, but it is important to look at why that opportunity exists and what the impacts or the factors around that opportunity actually are. I mean, it's a bit like if you wanted to start a business and build electric cars, you wouldn't do that without understanding exactly what Tesla's doing. It's the same sort of thing. Okay, so the highline numbers. Estimates suggest 3 billion over the next 10 to 20 years. Okay, so that's not a promissory comment. That's not something that is likely to happen or may actually happen. It's something that is actually happening right now. Okay, and again, we already know that bottom one because we've just looked at the actual numbers breakdown by state and then converted it into people. But the important thing is you've got other sources like ASIC looking at the fact that estate planning, particularly intestacy, is a significant problem. Okay, Banking Royal Commission. I mean, there's nobody that doesn't understand those words. So you bring the Royal Commission back to the advisor space. It was a fairly damning comment when a number like 90% of advisors fail to act in the best interest of their clients comes out from ASIC during that whole process, I guess. So what that means from an advisor perspective is that as an industry, as an individual, as a business owner, as an industry, there is some reputation rebuilding work that needs to be done, and the flow-on effects of that are fairly obvious in some of the things that we're about to go and have a look at. So the end result of that, and I'm not going to go through every single bullet point in here. Some of these slides are built for people that will receive or view the presentation without having the benefit of concurrently listening to the webinar. But there's nobody in this particular session that doesn't understand and isn't living every single day significant shifting sands under your feet. All of those shifting sands are about rebuilding trust, giving clients confidence in an advisor's competence, ensuring that remuneration structures and the way the business works is actually fair, and making sure that all the processes that are undertaken are done so with a level of diligence. Okay. But the end result of that is advisors are being faced with more compliance. You're being faced with changes in the way you get paid or can get paid. You're being faced with increasing education requirements. So at the end of the day, all of those things, whilst it might achieve the objective of restoring faith, trust, confidence, all of those adjectives in your industry, it's increasing your cost of operation. It's increasing the money that you need to spend to be able to have, run, own, operate your businesses now before you put a cent in your pocket. So essentially, without businesses leveraging the cost benefits of technology, the cost of delivering your services is actually increasing. So if you put all of that aside, put all of that in one big bucket and spin it around and say, okay, what's our North Star? And by North Star, I mean, what is the one direction that every advisory firm, even though you may do it in your own way, but what's the one direction that every advisory firm needs to look at or needs to take? There needs to be a focus on new services. Okay, they need to be valuable and they need to be value added. Okay, you can no longer just sell product. Right? They need to be human centric. It's about re-establishing a human role in your industry. And if you look at federal government figures around productivity, accounting particularly, not so much the advisors, but accounting is the highest probability of facing job losses through technical changes or automation at more than twice the likelihood of any other industry. So the tech change is a tide that you cannot swim against. Okay, so the challenge is to find a way to leverage the benefits of technology while still remaining relevant and centric as a human in that process. Obviously, new revenue streams. Okay, increased relevance relates to what I was just talking about. Improve client engagement. I mean, your clients need more from you to repair the damage that's been done. And that's really about greater regularity. I mean, gone are the days really where you can talk to a client, bill them for a year, and then see them in a year. You need ways to engage with your clientele on a more regular but bona fide basis. Improve client retention. You need to stop your clients from leaving. Now, a number of reasons for that, but we don't need to go into those. But at the end of the day, as a North Star bullet point, you need improved client retention. Leverage technical efficiencies. We just mentioned that. That's about cost. You need to lower your risk. You're under increased compliance, which means you need to avoid, lower, mitigate, do everything you can from a risk perspective. And when you've got so much opportunity up in the air or out in the market, you need to establish unique selling propositions. What differentiates you, what you do, or how you do it from anybody else who's out there doing exactly the same things? Why would people come to you as a client, a new client? Why would your current clients choose to stay with you? Why would financial planners choose to come and work with you? You need points of difference. Okay, and that is the last point, is resource attractiveness. Your business needs to be attractive enough to resources. With all of those changes happening in the market, the increased compliance, the screws coming down, remuneration structures being changed, the need to go back and restudy and bolster education, the costs associated with that. There are a number of sources that are saying that up to 1/3 of advisors currently working in this space will leave the industry. So how do you, as a business, ensure that you are attractive enough to resources, to advisors, to staff, to ensure that you can continue to operate and grow your own businesses? So that's the direction that we help organisations move toward. So what we're seeing at the moment is this exodus. And again, you already know this, but it's about putting it back in your minds to paint a picture of why we recommend the practical steps that we're going to go and recommend, and why the Yodal business does what it does and the way that we do it. Okay. There's headlines all over the place about banks leaving. I mean, you look at Commonwealth Bank as an example. I mean, they just sold Count for 2.5 million when they bought it for 373 million. They bought it in 2011 and sold it in 2019. So you go from 373 to 2.5. Okay. Exactly the same thing with Bendigo and Adelaide. They sold their entire book off to IOOF, who have bought a whole lot of stuff, including 5 or 6 different dealer groups. But 125 jobs went up in the air when they did that. So there's 125 people that are displaced just from that single transaction. I mean, the Westpac exit put a further 900 advisors out onto the market. So you look at what's happening with the banks and the advisors being sent outwards, you're seeing a trend in technology investment, particularly along the robo-advice line. So people are looking for cheaper ways to deliver this advice. So I guess at the end of the day, clients end up with no advice, general advice, or access to robo-advice. So that's a commercially driven decision, and it's about minimizing cost. What it doesn't do is actually respond to the needs of the clients. Okay, that's where your opportunity exists. So what goes up in the air? So to put all of that into 2 lines, $2.2 billion in revenue and about 3,000 advisors are what have been displaced to date as a result of the big bank exiting the planning space. So again, the important part about that, and this is the difference between a commercial decision and the client need, after a lot of those things have happened, 48% of Australian adults indicating they have an unmet financial advice needs because they're either getting no advice, very general advice, or robo advice. So Newton's second law, it might even be Newton's third law for any scientists out there. Yep. What goes up must come down. So if all of these changes have put so much opportunity up in the air, who's trying to grab it? Think about it like one of those money machines that you stand in, they close the door, they turn on the fan, you're surrounded by $100 notes, and you've got to grab as much of that as you can in 30 seconds. The big players stepping in to actually fill that space are superannuation funds. Okay, and we're seeing that all over the place. Okay, superannuation is a $2.7 trillion a year industry. That's 1.5 times the entire Australian gross domestic product. Now that's a fairly staggering statistic when you put it like that. But what makes it more relevant is that over the next 15 years, it's forecast to grow to about $4.8 trillion. Okay, so the size of superannuation outstrips the size of the conventional financial sector, including the big four banks. So you look at that again, break that down one step further. And this is who you're competing with for this work. This is who advisors and accountants are competing with to win as much of that floating money as they can before the fan goes off. Okay, so self-managed superannuation accounts for $746 billion and industry funds count for $747 billion. So there's a changing of the guard there as older workers retire and younger workers come into the fold. Okay, so you're seeing a changing of the guard. You look at the First State Super versus Vic Super as an example. I mean, that creates a financial services monolith with about $120 billion under management, about 1.3 million members. And with the merger between First State and Vic Super, First State pick up about 350 financial planners. And again, to underline or underscore the importance of estate planning, we're seeing superannuation funds actually building law firms. And this is something that is happening. This is a project that we are actively working on at the moment. It's not a hypothesis or a projection. They're actually building law firms inside industry super funds for the purposes of engaging their members and using estate planning to do that. Okay? So these are the sorts of changes that your products and services need to work against, work with, combat, factor in their design, a whole range of different things. Okay, MTAA and Tasplin again, combined national super fund, $23 billion, 335,000 members, another recent merger. I mean, Hostplus, 1.2 million members, 42 billion funds under management, with Club Super, with 600 million funds under management. So you've got smaller funds merging with other funds, you've got big funds merging. At the end of the day, you're creating a financial services monolith, and that's where the information's going. So why are they looking at that? They have large existing client bases. They're seeking deeper and broader client relationships. Again, go back to that changing of the guard between industry and self-managed super funds. The self-managed super funds will drop off because they're generally older people. The industry funds are growing because the rising population are all younger people. Okay? Aging population, that's the point we're just making. Countering member drop-off, that's the point we were just making. These industry funds are sitting here saying, when all these people retire in an aging population, we don't want them just to pull their money out of super and then we lose our relationship with them. So they're using estate planning to build ongoing relationships and offer different services. Engagement, retention, succession, they're the 3 points. There is a significant unmet demand there. So that's why you're seeing super funds bolster their advisor numbers. Yes, they will deliver a portion of robo-advice to simple opportunities or simple estate planning needs or financial advice needs. But at the end of the day, the unmet demand is for face-to-face advice. They're also looking at their own business models, and they need to generate new revenue, and estate planning does that. It does that significantly because there's a massive opportunity there. And what estate planning will enable these funds to do is to stop cross-subsidising advice from member funds. They're running advice businesses inside superannuation businesses, and they're loss-making propositions on their own balance sheet. So they're looking to stop that. Okay, so put all that together and just, let me synthesize what all of that means for you as advisors or accountants or business owners. Billions of dollars of revenue, and that is real revenue. That is previously spent, concurrent, annual. There is real money sitting there that is available for an attractive service offering to pick up. There's unmet demand for face-to-face advice. Clients are looking for solutions that they can trust. Clients are looking for advice solutions that they can afford and see value in. People are happy to spend money on advice, but they need to see value in it. There's an increase in demand for client-engaged models. People want to have more hands-on involvement in their own futures. They want people to teach them how to do things, not just do things for them. Okay? They don't have the trust to sit there and say, here's my nest egg, you go and do with it what you want, and I'm going to trust you that everything's going to be fine. They want to know more. They want to do more. Again, it's about self-empowerment. The challenge for advisors is, how do you deliver more services in a better way to more people when you're faced with more costs, and do that more efficiently? How do you try and reduce your cost as much as you can and still tick all of those other boxes? The answer to that is tech. And you've got increased competition. You've got new market entrants by way of the super funds, particularly in relation to advice and estate planning. All right, so that's all the boring background stuff. That paints a picture of what we're dealing with and what we know our clients are dealing with every single time we engage with someone to help them build an estate planning offering within their business. Yodal is to estate planning what Xero is to accounting. Now, it's a tool. You still own the businesses, you still have the staff, you still deliver the services, but Yodal is a tool that assists you to do that. In the same way as accountants are still accountants, they still do tax, they still do planning, they still do business advice, but Xero is a tool that enables them to actually do that. Okay? Our role is to use our tool and partner with our clients to focus on two things. Number one is adoption, and that is people deciding to have a dedicated estate planning product, and we want them to use Yodal for that purpose, of course. But the second bit is partnering with them to ensure that that solution is actually used and you engage your members as much as you possibly can. So that's our focus. Now, a couple of quick ones. You are best placed to seize that opportunity, whether it's attracting new people, attracting new clients, generating new revenue, implementing new services. You are best placed to do that. You already have those existing client relationships. Your current clients, beneficiaries of your current clients, okay? You already have a much deeper understanding and a much better relationship with those people than banks or superannuation funds do. Okay, so you're already well positioned there. The important thing about estate planning is the benefits of implementing a dedicated estate planning product is that you can realize benefits in the short term, but the benefits are persistent in the long term. So it's not one of these, let's start spending a ton of money now and we're not going to see anything for a year. It's not like that at all. Okay, your benefits are realizable almost immediately. It doesn't cost a lot of money. Okay, if you do this properly, and this is what we ensure that our clients are able to do, and that is establish estate planning as a profit center within your business, not as a cost center within your business. Okay, you look at the Ansoff matrix. For anyone that's familiar with the Ansoff matrix, it's about growth and risk. So you apply the Ansoff philosophy or the Ansoff matrix to introduction of estate planning into your business. It's low risk. You're already doing it to some degree, and you are already operating in that market. Okay, it's not like you have a financial planning or an accounting business and you want to go and sell aeroplanes. Okay, that would be high risk. But to have a dedicated estate planning offering in a professional services setting that you currently work in with an existing client base is exceptionally low risk. Thank you, Ansoff. Okay, it does require some change, but that's more about the way you think. It's more about the importance you put on estate planning, and it's actually not difficult. And when we work with our clients, there's 4 things that we focus on. And when I say 4 things, a lot of them are concurrent. Some of the bits overlap. It's not this huge, long process, but we break the thinking up into 4 different areas. Okay. And regardless of how many areas, regardless of what we focus on, the one thing or the one outcome that everything is designed for is growth. It's about how do we partner with you to implement a dedicated estate planning product for the purpose of growing your business. So the first thing is define, okay? And I'll go into each of these quickly. Define what we're doing. How do we get it out to your clients? How do you engage with your clients? How do you actually deliver it? And how do you leverage the benefits of dedicated estate planning? And it's rinse and repeat. We put it together, we do those things, we deliver it, we review it, we make it better, we look at the changes in the business, and you go through and do it all again. It actually becomes a cyclical profit center within your business. So let's break those down one at a time. Now, when we break down these sections, I want to give you just some of the background, but then I've tried to incorporate a real example, not a marketing example, but a real example of a dedicated project that we've worked on that highlights that particular stage. You need a plan, you need some direction. That's the first bit. You heard the old adage, if you plan to fail, fail to plan, all of those sorts of things. But you need to have some idea of why you're actually doing this. Why are we putting it in place? Is it a cost center? Is it a revenue center? Are we doing it because we need new revenue? Are we doing it because we've got an issue with our clients? Are we doing this because we have a high cohort of a particular client group? An example of that, if your client base are all or a high proportion are aging, you need to think about the long-term impact on your business for that when these people retire, pass away, all of those sorts of things. So estate planning can be a good way to generate new revenue, ensure that their wishes are met, and also use the estate planning process to be reintroduced to your second generation of clients who would ultimately be the beneficiaries of their estate plans. So it's about understanding why you're doing this. Are you targeting younger millennials who are just setting out in life, in which case estate planning becomes an important part? So we need to understand who is the service actually targeted at. We need to look at where does it fit into your client journey. It can't be peripheral and it can't be value added. Is it something that you want to build in for every new client? Is it something that you want to build in for every new client of a particular type? Is it something that you should build into every single review process? Is it something that you resource as a dedicated project to go back out to your clients and demonstrate that you're proactively looking after their interests as a way of rebuilding those relationships and building trust? So there's actually some thought to the design of your product depending on where you want to use it or where it delivers the most value to your business. Is it client directed? Do you want your clients to do most of it, but you facilitate that process for them? Do you want it to be advisor-led, so it becomes a almost dedicated advisor-led product that attracts higher fee levels? Or is it a hybrid model? Do you have an estate planning product for 90% of your clients, and then a premium, platinum, gold, whatever you want to call it, top shelf, top floor estate planning product for your ultra high net worth clients? So again, none of this stuff is difficult. It just requires a little bit of thinking, and then it becomes a marketing exercise. Every single matter needs to be signed off by a lawyer. We've got plenty of examples, and we've mentioned it earlier, about where planners, advisors, accountants don't recognise or realise the value of those commercial relationships. Do you have relationships with lawyers? If you do, how do we maximise those? If you don't, are there particular firms that you want to have relationships with because there's other benefits? Are there other benefits you can leverage from developing new relationships? If you don't have them, we do anyway. So, all right, I'm not going to go through everything on this table, and it's worth looking at when you get the slide deck afterwards. We did a national market research study Q2 2018, predominantly east coast of Australia, looking at end user clients, financial advisors and accountants, all in relation to estate planning. And what this table highlights were the motivators or the main drivers for each of those market segments when it comes to estate planning. The only 3 comments I think I'll make about this. Number 1, advisors and accountants wanting to have control over this process features in both target groups. And that's not surprising given what advisors generally do, and that is treat it as peripheral and toss it out the door, and then cost themselves a ton of money chasing it up to make sure and see if it's actually happened. So the ownership and control bit from a professional services or a provider perspective was highlighted. The second thing that's important about that table was you look at the end clients, your clients, their focus was on their loved ones and their families. It wasn't about them. So the kick or the buzz or the driver that your clients get out of this estate planning process, even though it's hard and we don't want to think about these things and we don't want to have these conversations and all of that sort of stuff, put all of that aside, the overriding emotion is I feel happy, I'm a little bit euphoric because I know that my family, my grandchildren, my loved ones, I know the people that matter to me are going to be looked after. That's the second point. The third point, and probably the most important, if you take your emotional hat off and put your commercial hat on, and this is about growing your business, so please wear your commercial hat, cost did not factor in any of the responses for any of the target groups. I thought that was an interesting thing to have omitted. So I'll leave you to sort through that in more time. Okay. So this section is about having a reason. This is a project that we have worked on. This is an insurance firm, a risk firm, who were on the acquisition trail and they were buying completely unrelated brands. So there was no brand association between any of their brands. So they used estate planning to create a brand association between their main brand and all of the ones that they were buying. That's an example of understanding why you're doing this, because it largely informs pretty much everything else. So the second thing, and I'm just conscious of timing as well, the second thing is once you've decided what you're doing, how do you engage with your clients? How do you position the service with your clients? How do you communicate the benefits of estate planning so you can mitigate resistance and have more of your clients coming to you wanting estate planning instead of you having to go to them and try and sell something? So you want to be takers, not makers, for want of a better term. Mitigate objections, reticence. Okay, what existing communication channels and links have you got? You know, how do you communicate with your clients right now? How do we use your web presence? How do we use social media? How do we use electronic marketing? And do we do that individual campaigns targeted on a specific client? Do you break your clients into segments? An example could be all of your self-managed super clients. Or do you look at groups? okay, all of our new clients. So there's different marketing ways that we can do that. For existing clients, is it part of renewals or part of meetings? And how do you utilize existing data? You have a lot of data on your existing clients. So again, it comes back to, do we repurpose some of that existing data and use it as a proactive exercise to go back out and engage with your clients? Again, here's some examples of some of the marketing engagement that we've done with our clients. You can see on the left-hand side there, that firm now can go to market with a dedicated estate planning offering. They can talk to their clients about exactly what steps they're going to go through. They can say for the first time that they will manage this process from end to end. There's a tool that helps them do that called Yodal, and they can guarantee the legal defensibility of this product and service and keep themselves almost entirely, not almost, but entirely off risk, because every single matter is finalised by a lawyer. That's some example of marketing a product rather than haphazardly promoting a service. So again, you look at this same person. They've utilised a web presence, dedicated estate planning offerings, so people can access their website, fill out their details, automatically create estate planning matters in Yodal, in their client Yodal instance. They can go through a needs assessment and get given a personalised report while they're sitting in their lounge room at home. So there's almost no cost to the Collins Hume business to deliver the service up to that point. And then they get notified through Yodal that there's a bona fide estate planning opportunity. And only then do they need to engage resources to follow up that client. It's about leveraging tech to deliver a dedicated service with a greater level of efficiency to reduce your cost of delivery and maximize new revenue. Okay. So fulfillment, again, you need to be central to all of that, okay? And even though you're engaging Yodal as a tool under some of these examples, and the matter's being finalised with a lawyer, we need to package that product up so it's the business that gets the credit for that. Your business gets the credit for that. Again, it's not just about outcomes, it's about the expectations. It's not only about ensuring that your client has an estate plan completed at the end of the day that's accurate and defensible, but also that their expectations along the way have been met. I mean, immediacy in terms of the process and the outcomes, ensuring that you're off risk. Okay, our solutions ensure that at no point does an advisor ever cross the information versus advice line. You need to make sure, regardless of what solution you use, even if it's not a Yodal solution, you need to make sure that you never cross that line at any point in time. Okay, it needs to be responsive to your client's needs. That comes back to the expectations piece. We don't need to talk anymore about cost efficient and effective, but importantly, it needs to be measurable and reportable. And this is a very important point. It's a little bit like the Big Mac and McDonald's scenario. You need to have some consistency in your deliverables. If you've got multiple offices as an accounting firm, or you're a dealer group from an advisor perspective, or if you've got multiple offices as a planner even, you need to ensure that what is being delivered, not only in terms of the consistency through the product and service delivery, or the consistency in the client experience, but also that there's consistency in your outcomes. Technology, again, enables you to do that. And I'm not going to keep using the compliance word because I'm sure everyone on this webinar is sick of hearing that because you're living it every single day. But again, we know that all of those boxes are ticked. Okay, this section is particularly about technology. Okay, you need a tech touch solution. You need technology for consistency and efficiency, but you need a touch solution because you're dealing with people, and you need to be human and centric in a value and value added service. Okay. You need multiple entry points for your clients, like we saw in the Collins Hume example. Okay. They can do it sitting in a client meeting. They can do it at home. They can access this service through dedicated links in EDMs. They can access this service through their mobile phone. They can access this service sitting on iPads while they're waiting for meetings. Okay. You need multiple ways to get people into your service offering. You need to engage your clients, because we know from the market data at the moment, 48% reported unmet demand for financial advice, particularly face-to-face, but they also want to do more than simply have something done for them. So that's what we need to be conscious of in the build of your product. Needs to be streamlined user experience from end to end. Okay. Yeah, but again, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's already done. Lots of issues, I won't say issues, but concerns around data and data privacy when you start punching information in. Whatever provider you use, whatever technology you use, ensure that the provider or the provider's technology partner is ISO accredited to 20001. Okay. Needs to be an audit trail for every single matter. Okay, and that goes to the credibility of the tech build. In the event that anything did go pear-shaped, you need to be able to pull every matter apart and understand who's done what, when, at what time of the day. So it needs to be auditable for every single stage of every single matter. Okay, your provider should have open APIs, which enables their solution to integrate with your systems. Number one, that saves a whole lot of time because you don't have advisors then re-inputting data. Integrations may cost you money to set them up at first because they may be bespoke, but it's worth it. They're not that expensive. The time saving on double entry of data is immense. And importantly also, it increases the accuracy, because when you limit human touch and re-input of data, you also limit the propensity for error. The other thing a good integration also does is puts all of the estate planning data back into your system at the end of an estate planning matter, which is critical in updating things like addresses, phone numbers, emails. So it needs to be centrally administered. What I mean by that, if you've got 400 or 500 advisors working in and around your business, they all need to log in and report to the same place. So you need a solution that will manage multiple accounts under one organization, not separately. Okay, consistency we've already talked about, and it needs to be scalable. The point of this is growing businesses. The last thing you want to do is make a tech decision, put a solution in place, your business grows around it, and then you're in a dead-end position. So you need to ensure that there's some scalability and growth attached to the solution. Okay, final point is about leverage. Once you've done all of that, once you've got that in place and your estate planning is working, how do you maximize the benefits of that? Okay, client attraction, that's about new clients. You have a new product, you have a new service. It's dedicated, people will talk about it. People will go and socialize about the fact that they've done that because it makes them feel good. And we know that from the market research, and that was independently conducted. So there's a word of mouth new client component to that. Okay, you've also got deeper engagement with your current clients, particularly if you treat it as a dedicated service, use existing client data and go back out to them and say, hey, listen, we've been looking at your stuff. We think we need to look at this. So deeper client relationships and better retention. Revenue growth. Everything we talk about is revenue growth. Okay. Succession. That's about your business development. What I was saying before about aging populations. Think about the details or the information that you would get access to as part of an estate plan. Every single person who is a beneficiary, generally, to your client's estate plan is a potential client of yours. We're doing a project at the moment with a Big Four bank where they're delivering an estate planning product, and that entire solution is driven by Yodal. The reason they're doing that is for succession. It's got nothing to do with estate planning. It's purely about succession. Okay, wallet share. Again, we can give you lots of data that says if you lead a client relationship with financial advice, they will spend X amount of money with your business. If you lead that same conversation with estate planning, there are no skeletons left in the cupboard. There's nothing that you don't know about that person, the ins and outs of their families, split families, separated families, siblings, finances. There's no skeleton left. So our data shows that if you lead with estate planning and then flow into advice, your average spend per client is nearly 3 times higher. You can leverage your marketing. Okay, look at examples, look at positives, get testimonies of your clients that are super happy with your estate planning offering, and put all of the I know my loved ones are going to be looked after stuff together. So there's a marketing component you can leverage that directly feeds the top 2 points, and that's client engagement for new clients and client attraction for existing clients. So if you do it properly, it becomes a self-fulfilling to a large degree. You build dedicated lawyer relationships. And in Yodal, we can lock down your system so your advisors can only refer to a select panel of pre-chosen lawyers. So again, it's more value for you to take out to those legal relationships and lawyer networks. And when you start measuring estate planning and getting all of the feedback, you'll be amazed at the opportunities that creates for you to develop new products and new services. Now, maybe that was an intermediary product in the event that you had to operationalize an estate plan and you're involved in facilitating or part of the administration of that estate. So there's a lot of flow-on effects from estate planning. Okay. So at the beginning, we talked about a lot of things that advisors do or businesses do generally now that are counterintuitive in some way to maximizing the commercial opportunity that's in front of you right now. And the commercial opportunity is unmet demand, billions of dollars in revenue, and an abundance of available resources. So if we worked with you and stepped through those 4 steps, and you put a solution in place, whether it was Yodal or otherwise, you have a clear strategy about what your estate planning is all about. Okay, you have a core service offering, not a peripheral or a value add. You have a core service offering with measurable outcomes. You have much deeper client relationships. That makes the whole thing a whole lot more sticky, not only now, but also with future relationships. Your clients are less likely to leave. Okay, you actually have a dedicated fulfillment model, and you don't need as many resources because you're leveraging effective purpose-built tech. You know you're compliant. Okay, all of your conflicted remuneration, not an issue. All of your fee structures, not an issue. All of your best interest duties, not an issue at all. As a result, you remain completely off risk. And underlining everything again that we do, your business is generating significant levels of new revenue, and that leads to growth. Thank you. I hope that all makes sense. I know we spent a bit of time at the beginning doing some background work, but I think that's important to understand the significance of the opportunity and what we need to be conscious of when we build it, because we want to build it once and build it right. So I appreciate your time. I'm quite happy to take any questions. And thank you to NetWealth for the opportunity. And thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandon. Listeners, I hope that provides some food for thought about what an estate planning offering could do for your business. We've got some time for just a couple of questions. If you have to leave the line, we understand, and we will send you a copy of the recording slides and CPD points in an email within the next week. Brandon, got one here. If someone's interested and they've got a well thought out estate plan, how long does it typically take to implement into their business?
To implement, depending on the type of solution and the subscription, we could have a dedicated solution in place in 48 to 72 hours.
Yeah, okay. And we've got a few questions here around what's the cost around Yodal?
It varies. We look at 2 things. A normal vendor will look at adoption, charge you a licensing fee, and talk to you in a year. That's not the way we work. Whilst we look at adoption, and that's important, and licensing starts at $250 a month, our focus is on utilisation, and that means that you're making money on every single matter. So licensing starts at $250 a month, but it's offset by the revenue that you generate every single time you put a matter through.
And speaking of that, well, how much on average do advisors usually or generally charge for an estate planning? What's the sort of the
there is no rule. The way the Yodal solution is built is an advisor can add a fee on top of every single matter at whatever level they like. Okay. But the way we leverage the technology and the way we engage lawyers, which is getting them to commit to a set fee structure, means that the Yodal solution creates a cost competitive margin. So what your clients get through Yodal as an outcome will generally, in nearly all instances, be significantly cheaper than if they went and did it through a law firm. Okay, even though it ends up in a law firm, it's processed differently. So what that creates is a margin for the advisor to add an advisor fee, but still bring the total service offering in significantly cheaper than if they went to a lawyer. So the answer to the question is the average advisor fee that we see attached to a single matter when we interpret data across all of the matters through Yodal is $1,260. So that's the average fee that advisors add to a matter, and the highest fee we've seen on a single matter is $4,000.
That answers a few questions there. On the subject of lawyers, obviously you said you still need to engage them. If you have an estate planning offering or you're using Yodal and you've already done some of the work for them, have you seen that result in a reduction in lawyer fees?
Okay. The way Yodal's built, it's completely lawyer agnostic. It is not dumb form technology that funnels everything back to a single law firm. It's not like that. You can have a different lawyer attached to every single matter if you want. Okay? It's a solution, not a service. When we onboard lawyers, they need to accept our terms and conditions, which means they need to accept our fixed document pricing for estate planning documents. We cater for every document type across every state in the country, and lawyers need to accept our pricing. The important piece about that is that it enables the advisors to do the recommendations report that we saw quickly on screen before and produce a fixed price quote for the client in 10 or 15 minutes, maximum 10 or 15 minutes. It's quite a nice user process to go through. The only way we can do that is because we know what every single lawyer in Yodal is going to charge. So the answer to the question is no, even if the advisor has done part of the work, that won't result in a reduction in the overall fees because the lawyer fees are already low.
Okay, I hope that answers the question there. Rand, we'll wrap it up. Final question, if anyone listening today wants to learn more about anything you spoke about, how can they get in contact with you?
On the screen now is my name, mobile number, and my email. For the purpose of Netwealth subscribers, I'm happy to take those directly. Or failing that, you can access demo requests, support information at www.yodal.com.au. But like I said, I'm happy in the first instance if that came directly to me as a result of today.
Well, Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today, presenting. Listeners, thank you for joining us. I'll just finish with a couple of last minute pointers. As spoken about, there was a one CPD point available for this webinar, and this webinar was recorded. You will receive the CPD point and the webinar recording and slides in an email within the next week. You may also be interested in our upcoming national roadshow in all major cities in Australia. We've got our technical services expert Keith Chu presenting on 4 super strategies to elevate your advice in 2020. That's a complimentary event, 3 CPD, and we'll include it in the follow-up email if you'd like to register and get along to that. It's always a very valuable and great feedback session. And Roger Montgomery is sharing his economic outlook in 2020 in our portfolio construction webinar. I'll also include the link in that so you can register for that one, which is happening in a couple of weeks. And with school starting for the year, now's a great time to get in touch with your kid's teacher or a teacher you know to get Banker into your classroom. What Banker does is turn the classroom into a virtual economy, and the kids can start learning essential financial skills such as superannuation, insurance, interest, you name it, on there. It's a brilliant system. You can get the classroom sponsored on behalf of Netwealth, so no charge to teacher, school, or you or parents. Get in touch. It's fantastic. Listeners, thank you once more for joining us. We hope to see you next time, and we hope you have a great day. Cheers.